Gupta sir, you can start. We are live now.
Good evening, sir. I am KK Gupta, your host for this webinar today. I think this is the first webinar of the series of the new year of 22. And I must wish you all the happy this Lodi. Today is also very important occasion for the us because Lodi and Pongal and Shakranti is also there. I think today is very poised day for us as the associations of the financial advisors. So this is our first webinar on the SME sector. All friends are well aware that SME play very important role in the economic development. It is a backbone of the country. Either you talk about the export sector, which about contribute about 48% of the national export, and we talk about the GDP, where about 30% of GDP is also under the SME sector. After agriculture, we are talking about the employment. So SME sector also play a very important issue for that. The contribution to the economic activities, employment, growth, and innovations play a very important role for SME sectors. Fund struggles, procurement become an almost external issue across the world. When we are talking about the credit, so for a commercial credit, 919.06 billions, out of which about 25.27% are being availed from the SME sectors. And still there is a gap of 219 billions for the SME sectors. Government of India has come out various scheme. RBI introduced it. Either we talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat, where about 20 lakhs crore rupees was set aside. Besides providing the collateral-free automatic credit of 3 lakhs crore rupees, whether we talk about the fund to funds, and whether we talk about the subordinate debts, we took out the equity infusion, all such things are there to help the SME sector. So, sir, we were going to discuss in details, and we have an eminent speaker here. We will introduce you later on. So, just to tell you, the Association of Financial Advisor of India is set up as a non-profit company registered under Section 8 of Company Act 2013. And we are having this first webinar under this series on the very important topic of SME sector. And this company was promoted by the eminent financial experts and industry leader in India. More than 200 members already enrolled in the shortest period. All the professionals person joined hand for exchange of knowledge and experience for the benefit and betterment of all the stakeholders. All the professional has pledged to standardize, standardize the working culture to rebuild the funding architects so that to bring the discipline and ethical practice for all the stakeholders of the industries. Either you name as members, lenders, borrowers, regulators. So all are, even we are talking about the government, it will going to play a very important role by the associations in the coming times. When we find out the international financial market, the key role for the market syndications of loan are done by either we talk about the book runners, we talk about the mandated lead manager, which will say MLA, or a lead manager or lead arranger or arranger and participants. On the similar ways, we feeling that this financial advisory association will play a very important role under the fields. So I'm not going very detailed for that. Lekin I'm just talking about the subject which we are going to discuss detail with you. We will maximum discuss the financial positions, whether we talk about the financial discipline for better cash flow management, financial planning and sustainability of the small business, how to improve financial capability for SME sectors, and be assessed to a right funding at right cost. There are so many things. Besides that, we are expert in the co-lending and partnership with NBFC. So we will going to discuss that. Our colleague from Bank of Baroda are there who will going to discuss or the co-lending also with you. Need and significance of professional advisory services is also main object which we are going to discuss with you. So we have eminent panel with us. As we talk here, Ravindra ji, who is the Executive Director of Punjab and Sindh Bank. We welcome him. We are having K. Ishwar, who is a senior consultant with the IBA and he was ex-General Manager with Central Bank of India. And Mr. H.P. Kumar, ex-Chairman cum Managing Director of National Samal Industry Corporation Limited. We are having Shri Vivek Malhotra, CGM, SEDB, Lucknow. And we are having D. Bhattacharya ji from Bank of Baroda, head SME sector, who is going to talk to you regarding detail of the co-lending, which is going to play very important role for the SME sector. So first of all, I want to invite Shri K. Ishwar, who is ex-senior advisor IBA. Mr. Ishwar has a vast experience in the field of banking and has worked for 4 decades in Central Bank of India. His tenure in the Central Bank of India include position of a General Manager, Credit, General Manager, Treasury, International Banking, beside Field General Manager at Hyderabad. He has also worked as a senior advisor of corporate banking at IBA for a period of 5 years, and he was instrumental to frame a policies for the banker. He has also held some brief period executive director with the Research in India also. I am not taking much time, so I am requesting Mr. Ishwar to please highlight what are the object of this SME sector, and we are talking about the financial aspect we already explained to you, and how the SME can be benefited with your views, how they should draft the projects and get the maximum benefit, and what are the drawbacks they are facing at present. So I hand over to Mr. Ishwar. Please give your presentation. Mr. Ishwar.
Thank you, Gupta ji. Good evening once again. Gupta ji, Director, Research in India Limited. Distinguished co-panelists Sri K. Raghavendra, Sri H.P. Kumar, Sri Bhattacharya, and Sri Vivek Malhotra ji. Members of the Association of the Financial Advisors and participants. At the outset, I am thankful to Gupta ji for inviting me as a co-panelist for this seminar on the role of financial advisor in MSME. I must also compliment Gupta ji for selecting a very contemporary topic on MSME and the role of financial advisors in the MSME space. The key discussion points for the webinar are already before the participants, but I have been advised to briefly make a presentation on these points. I would request Mr. Rohan to display my presentation on the screen. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So these discussion points are before the participants already. This was the agenda of this webinar. But before I begin my presentation, I would like to mention some key pointers to MSME to stress the importance of MSME in the national economy. Though Gupta ji has highlighted some of these in terms of the export potential and employment, we are very much aware that countrywide network of approximately 63 million MSME units are there, and 95% of these are from micro enterprises. MSME provides employment to over 110 million people. As Gupta ji said, MSME contributes a little over 30% to the GDP, and almost 50% of the exports are from the country are contributed by the MSME. 51% of the MSME are based out of the rural areas, and the MSME sector has tremendous contribution in terms of the inclusive growth. So such a significant contribution in the national economy. Can we go to the next slide? So I would just like to highlight the overview and the challenges faced by the MSME. Despite contributing significantly to the national mainstream economy, there are some critical challenges which need to be addressed, and that is why I complimented Gupta ji that it was a very timely seminar on the MSME. As I mentioned here, according to CIA study, approximately 98% of the industries fall under the category of MSME in India, while some of these enterprises are directly engaged in exports, and majority of these MSME are engaged indirectly in export ecosystem through manufacturing intermediate goods for larger industries engaged in the exports to the international partners. And as per the IIP, there are over 7,500 commodities produced by the MSME. And the MSME contribute in the production and in ancillary activities almost every commodity produced in the country. If I take the instance of only gems and jewelry industry, which contributes 6 to 7%, now it is more than that in the nation's GDP. It is also among the largest exporter of the gems and jewelry in the world. Very tremendous contribution from gem and jewelry access. So in the above background, what I feel that when we look at the process of integration to the global value chain. So today we talk of the global value chain. We are aware that a component of X product is, one component is manufactured in Singapore, one in Hong Kong, maybe one in India, and finally assembled in some other destination. So in that global value chain, integration of the global value chain, MSMEs face many challenges if they have to participate in that. And it calls for accelerated efforts to strengthen the MSME sector. That is what I feel. The reason that to enable their penetration and reach globally, I think most important thing would be access to timely finance, A, and B, at right cost by the MSME, which both are constrained for numerous reasons. So we will look into that, how the remedy for those and how the way forward for that, both in terms of the making available timely finance and at right cost. And then considering the role of MSME, role and potential of MSME, I think the productivity and quality needs to be viewed in the context of both domestic landscape as well as the global competitive landscape. That is what I feel. Next. If we look at the supporting ecosystem, it's a matter of concern that as per the one study, 67% of the MSME applications stands rejected world over. There is a need to address this gap both globally and in particular in our domestic context. Unfortunately, still 75% of the funding of MSME comes from the informal sector, mainly because of the illiteracy and lack of knowledge level of MSME entrepreneurs, particularly the micro and small. And here comes the heightened role of the financial advisors, which we will discuss in course of them. So it's paramount importance to enable MSME to start the sector, become globally competitive, get timely finance, hassle-free at lower cost. Financial literacy and handholding would be of immense support to these small and micro entrepreneurs. On the other, there are MSME units which are innovative, fast growing, with a higher risk return profile, but have a different set of problems to access the traditional mode of the bank finance. So I think in this backdrop, I feel that the financial discipline, financial planning, and performance evaluation management and developing financial capabilities would assume much higher significance, so that the MSMEs are able to not only manage the business efficiently, but also able to do fundraising, access finance at low cost, and demonstrate competitive advantage. Here I feel that the well-qualified and experienced financial advisory services in hand-holding and guiding the MSME enterprises, not only in securing traditional finance, but also access to the alternative financial instruments. Next, please. Financial discipline is the backbone of any enterprise. And if we talk about financial discipline and cash flow, being a banker, practicing banker, being a branch head, being a zonal head, I had seen very closely that most of the small borrowers, small enterprises, they could not get the finance, particularly when I see that there was tremendous amount of the lack of the financial discipline or awareness about the cash flow management. Forget about the financial statements or the proposals which are to be submitted to the bank. Even the statements like stock statements, debtors statements, receivable statements, creditors details, these all were lacking in these enterprises, small enterprises. And that is how that was a big restraint for them to access easy. There was a difficulty for them to access the bank finance. So I could closely see that there is a definitely need for that capacity building in these small and micro level enterprises. So as I mentioned here, that for success of any enterprise, financial discipline and financial planning is of paramount importance. To manage and strengthen the financials, MSME needs to improve its cash flow management. One of the methodology would be to continuously monitor effectiveness of the finance function and to benchmark the cash flow performance relative to the peers. And also it is essential to set up a finance dashboard to track performance more effectively across the organization, better identify proactively the cash flow problems. And best practices in financial decisions will help enterprise to instill greater financial discipline across the company. So these are some of the thoughts on the financial discipline. Can we go to the next slide? Financial planning and sustainability of the small business. That's very important for a small business to sustain the financial planning helps, particularly MSME. Basically, financial planning, we are not talking about any rocket science. We are talking only about the ascertaining working capital requirements through usage and the usage of the financial resources through cash flow analysis, projections, well-informed decision-making based on the MIS, anticipate future outcome and results more accurately. So these are the most fundamental things for any enterprise, be it a small, medium, or a micro, which would help them. And perhaps, so this here, the financial planning assumes a lot of importance. Can we go to the next? So obviously the elements of a financial plan would be business goals and objectives, budget fixing based on the realistic projections, monitoring the key performance indicators and milestones, cash flow estimation, MIS to support the business decisions, assessment of risk and risk mitigants, and resources planning for working capital and fixed assets. So broadly, the financial plan would cover all these. Mostly the participants are financial advisors and chartered accountants, so they will appreciate that these are the key requirements. Can I go to next slide? So I'm not going to this slide. This gives the suggestive, this is not an exhaustive list, but an illustrative list that the financial performance indicators or the market related performance indicators, how it will strengthen the entrepreneur to plan his activities, how he can manage in terms of the working capital requirements. So in terms of the viability, in terms of the competitiveness, in terms of accelerating the production. So in terms of planning everything, whether the raw material or the manufacturing process or the sales or the how they are able to manage the return on the marketing efforts, what are the leads generated, how leads are converted. So these are the basic things which an enterprise need to factor in their financial planning. So that is why I thought that I should put those as an illustrative here. It may not be the exhaustive. Can we go to next? So it is very important, the agility and adaptability to opportunities, which is key to survive for any enterprise, whether it is large or it's common to every enterprise. So it's more important for MSME segment. So an enterprise needs to be agile and adaptable quickly to changing environment and opportunities, which is key to the survival of business. So here I would like to give an example. See, now there exists a huge opportunity for eco-friendly products in global markets. We know this Paris Accord and Glasgow Accord, that when we have committed that 2070 zero carbon emission and 1% global warming. So many agreements are agreed by all the countries. And obviously each of the country would be working very sincerely about that. So according to me, so there will be huge opportunity for eco-friendly products in global market going forward. See, for instance, we have our traditional products, how we can convert them into opportunities, say, as I say, carpets of Bhadoi, or say leather goods of Kanpur, silk industry from Mysore, or wooden toys for Kandapalli, Andhra Pradesh, Ayurveda from Kerala, brassware from Moradabad, sports groups from Patiala, and so on. We have numerous products in each of the geographical region. And as you know that recently, Honorable Finance Minister said that each district will specialize in one product for exports. So what I said about this, enumerated some of these products right now before you, we can promote them by rebranding, re-promoting as a eco-friendly for global market acceptance. So there will be huge demand in terms of so what is required, what we need to do in terms of, if we talk about adaptability of opportunities, I would say, in order to promote these by rebranding, re-promoting as eco-friendly, what we also need to do probably is to do geotagging and promote these products as organic, environmentally friendly, environmental, social and governance compliant, carbon neutral, so source certified. So that would be the strategy for our global marketing and global placing these products for much demand. So that is how I feel that we need to collectively, as a nation, we need to adapt to these opportunities and showcase our products in the market with the re-promotion. Then you have, on the other hand, new emerging products like toys, furnitures in the promising area, where I think the dominance of China is coming down. So these are low capital intensive, are powerful and emerging areas with low competition. And in this space, we can create a massive pool. It has a potential of approximately $75 billion global penetration as per one study. And equally, there is need to encourage our universities, research establishment to work with these sectors to develop new products, especially with our manufacturing verticals. So these are some of the initial thoughts which come to my mind when I say that how we are agile and adaptable to the opportunities. Okay. Next slide, please. Access to the right funding at right cost. It's very important for survival of particularly the small industries, for small enterprises, micro enterprises, or any enterprise for that matter. Access to right funding, financial planning definitely helps in accessing timely right funding at right cost. See, as a business grows, need for funds grows. It is not only important to access timely, hassle-free finance for business, but also it is important that cost of finance is minimized. And that cost of finance can be minimized when I have the right mixture of the equity and debt in my books. So I can optimize on the cost. My total cost of the funds would be optimal when my cost of equity and cost of debt are ideal at the right proportion. And perhaps financing planning only will help me to achieve these objectives. And a financial advisor, being a qualified chartered accountant or some other qualification, he would be able to handhold the business entity to select the best mix of debt and equity where cost is minimized and optimum proportion of equity and debt financing is accessed. Then we talk about need for performance measurement and evaluation. Obviously, by constant measurement and evaluations ensuring to meet targeted growth, it helps in expansion and achieving scale of operations. We know that if we are able to accelerate the scale of operations, we are able to achieve economy of scale. We have other incentives like production linked incentives, which are announced by the government. Can we go to next slide? Then how to improve the financial eligibility and capability of the MSMEs. Bank lending is no longer security based alone. Yesterday in our discussions, we were discussing informally that cash generating models are the new methods of financing. And in order to achieve the financial eligibility and capabilities for MSME, we need to reflect the same by properly projecting the performance and financials of the firm before the lenders. And I think in this context, the financial planning is inevitable. Fintech solutions do support the efforts of an enterprise here. These days, there are many models which are driven by the artificial intelligence, where decisions are based on limited financial and non-financial parameters of business entities. Many banks are also developing such models. And decisions are made online, mostly with score-based models, online on real time. So financial planning helps enterprise with requisite support in this direction to qualify for finance. A financial advisor would be able to help an enterprise to properly qualify for this score-based model. But unfortunately, most of these MSMEs don't have a credit history which restrict their access to the finance. So what I feel that the entrepreneurs face the challenge to meet the criteria of conventional model of lending. Many NBFCs, fintechs have stepped in to fill the gap with alternative technology-driven credit lending models for MSME sector. And these alternative credit scoring models are based on digital data and give the lenders a fairly good view of the borrower's creditworthiness and risk. So alternative model platform is creating difference, providing quick supply of credit to MSME, improving the prospects of their financial eligibility and capability. So what I feel, in order to qualify for these score-based models, entrepreneurs need to reorient themselves and perhaps also the help or advice from the qualified financial advisors. Can you go to the next? Briefly about alternative financial instruments for MSME. As we understand that capital gaps also exist for the companies undertaking important transitions in their activities, as well as MSMEs seeking to deleverage and improve their capital structures. And accessing traditional bank finance sometimes poses challenge to MSMEs, particularly the newer, innovative and fast growing companies where higher risk return profile, where mostly venture capitalists step in. So hence the importance of the alternative financing instruments for MSME. But on account of complexity of these instruments, handholding of the financial advisors help MSME to understand and adopt these alternative financing instruments. Next, please. So I have enlisted here the types of the alternative financing instruments which MSME can access. The factoring, as we know, factoring is a financial arrangement where a business entity sells its account receivables to a third party called factor at a discount and meet present. So the trades platform is very popular, which is an electronic platform for facilitating financing the discounting of the trade receivables of micro, small, medium enterprises through multiple financiers. And these receivables can be due from corporates, other buyers, including government departments and public undertakings. You have the peer-to-peer lending as a method of the debt financing. Peer-to-peer lending investment or lending is a novel investment concept. It connects the investors to borrowers through P2P online platform to lend creditworthiness to the MSME. Peer-to-peer lending or the crowd lending is a form of the debt financing wherein borrowers can request a loan from another individual entity without the need of financial institution to act as an intermediary. And particularly the small micro business often face difficulty in getting approved with organized credit, and here P2P lending can an alternative option for many. And as all of us know, P2P lending, the participants are lender, borrower, and the P2P platform. And RBI also issued detailed guidelines on NBFC undertaking P2P lending. You have the other instruments, private equity, private placement, business angel investments. So we will talk about remodeling of the business goals. So an enterprise needs to continuously remodel business strategies in changing environment. One of the glaring examples in the COVID times, we have seen that business goals and strategies seem that they brought new business models, new products, new services. Continuously, they have been changing the models to take care of the situation arising of the COVID situation. So what we have seen that there was more reliance on the digital sales and delivery channels. There was a huge activity in the digital sales or digital channels. So entire sales and marketing and supply chain undergone changes. So there is a need for every enterprise to continuously remodel their business goals and targets. And the concluding part is that how financial advisors can assist the MSME. So as in all my slides, I've been explaining because of the complexities of some products, because of the specialized knowledge with the financial advisors, and because of the absence of this skill or the with the small entrepreneurs particularly, it is very important that the financial advisors do assist them. So a qualified and experienced financial advisors can assist MSME to create a financial plan which mitigates the risk and maximize the profit. That is the ultimate objective of an enterprise. And the consulting financial advisor can help MSME entities to consider the possibilities offered by various financing structures with optimum mix of equity and debt. As I said, that when we are taking recourse to the a mix of equity and debt and alternative financing instruments, then we want to reduce the cost, increase the revenue. Definitely we need to plan, and in this plan, definitely financial advisors would be able to help. And financial advisors would be able to help MSME entrepreneurs in presenting to bank a proper and well-drawn loan proposal also, help in tax planning, help in accessing various alternative financial instruments. So a lot of host of the things they can do. So this is in brief my
Thank you.
views about that.
Thank you, Ishwarji. Thank you, Ishwarji. I think you have covered most of the agenda point in your presentation. We are thankful to you. I will come back to you.
Thank you.
Now I am coming to Shri Vivek Malhotra, CGM SIDBI, currently working as Chief General Manager of Debt Credit Vertical of SIDBI, Head Office Lucknow. Dr. Malhotra has more than 30 years experience in financing and development of MSME sector. Having served across several states in India, Dr. Malhotra has wide and enriched experience in credit to SME sector as well as macrofinance. Dr. Malhotra has PhD degree in economics from the Lucknow University and has been completed PG diploma in business management for IIM Lucknow, IIM Calcutta. Sir, Mr. Malhotra, sir, as per your experience in this SIDBI, I think you are hell of a all the SME sector. What do you feel? Do you feel that initiative taken by the government of India and RBI are adequate? What are your opinion? Should have been further strengthened? Because what I feel it, because this restructuring fourth has been closed by December. And it is envisaged that about 20% of the credit restructured amount, which is about 50,000 crores, might be slip into a you can say stress assets, out of which it is envisaged about 10 or 11% go to a NPA category. So what do you feel, sir? How the again strength should be there to protect the SME sector? So I hand over to Mr. Malhotra. Malhotra, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Regards to my co-panelists and welcome to all the members who have joined this webinar. I think it's a very, very pertinent question. First, I will touch what the government has done and whether it has been adequate in terms of alleviating the ill effects of corona, and then secondly, I will touch upon what else could be done by the MSMEs themselves to ensure that in the post-corona or after withdrawal of the benefits, they continue to be profitable, they continue to maintain their accounts in standard position. So first of all, as we all know that it would not have been possible for the MSME sector and the banks in India to tide over this crisis of COVID-19. It started in full-blown manner by March 2020, without the support from Reserve Bank of India and without the support of Government of India. We all know that Reserve Bank of India immediately came out with moratorium, short-term moratorium on interest payments, on principal payments, and then also came out with the restructuring scheme. And thereafter, Government of India took the unprecedented step of coming out with what is now known as ECLGS 1, 3, and 4 for helping all the affected sectors of the economy. And to the credit of Government of India, it is a very, very liberal scheme, and it is a scheme where the banks are being given 100% guarantee by NCGTC, which is an arm of Government of India and SIDBI. So whatever is being lent under these schemes has been sufficient so far for meeting the requirements of the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And it is supported, it is fully backed by Government of India guarantee. So that's one major initiative which has come. And then what has also happened is that government utilizing, as we say, that crisis is the best time to reform and crisis is the best time to prepare yourself for better times. So Government of India also used this opportunity to introduce many what we call as forward-looking steps for the Indian industry and for the MSME sector under the umbrella of the Atmanirbhar Bharat packages. So these some of the things which are very important for micro, small, and medium enterprises. I will cover that. The most important thing which happened is that the long-awaited increase in definition of MSMEs was notified, and now earlier the trend was towards forming many companies, what we used to call as horizontal expansion, but now it is possible for MSMEs to go in for vertical expansion because the investment limit has been liberalized and it has been enhanced manifold. When you go in for vertical expansion, you have many advantages. First advantage is cost advantage. Second is your competitive advantage. Third is that the supplier has a single point of dealing, and fourth is that you have better sources of raising both equity as well as debt. You can raise equity from the market because you have that critical size in terms of being attractive to either venture funds or private equity investors or the MSME boards of the regular stock exchanges, be it the National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange. So that's one very important thing which has been done. Other than that, a number of steps the government has been notifying for the benefit of MSMEs. But I will also come to the question of that what MSMEs should do in the post what we can say is the restructuring scheme has ended and ECLGS will also end soon. So what they should be doing to keep their business afloat. I think we should, again, the answers lie in some of the initiatives which have been taken by the government, by the Reserve Bank of India, and by various financial institutions. I think to survive, MSMEs need to keep their fires burning or keep their cash flows churning. So MSMEs go down very often because the cash flows dry up and cash flows are not coming cash flows not coming means that you have to depend upon how do you make payment of your dues to the bank, or how do you keep your working capital account regular, and how do you sort of service your debt. So in that I think TReDS is a very, very important platform which is increasingly gaining popularity, where you can discount your receivables, you can finance your receivables and realize your payments. The Factoring Act has also been amended to allow NBFCs to come on the TREDS platform, the 3TREDS platform, and with that, the market size will deepen. Better risk takers will come in. People will come in with better information. Another thing which is very, very important is the government e-marketplace, which has been implemented for quite some time. And that means that the government procurement is now done in a very, very transparent fashion. And if I can give you some figures, this GEM portal has served 8.16 million orders worth $21.38 billion from 3.1 million registered sellers. I'm sure that most of these, at least 97% of these, are the MSMEs, and this is the benefit which is flowing to MSMEs. Now, with this platform, with the implementation of GST, a lot of things which are being done, I will also briefly cover. There's the payment history is available. Since a confirmed order is available, it is very simple for somebody or a NBFC or a bank to finance this order and release the payment upfront, because they know that in giving finance to such an order holder, the only risk which they are incurring is that whether they will be able to complete the order or not, the assessment thereof is to be made. Since on the other side, the counterparty is government, and since the order is confirmed, the payment risk is, or the risk of the purchaser going bust is no longer there. So that's again one very important thing which needs to be taken care of. I mean, which needs to be utilized by the MSMEs to keep their businesses in order and keep the cash flows. Another trend which I want to point out, and which will become very, very important for survival in future, that cash credit as a way of lending will perhaps come into decline, because cash credit ties one MSME to a particular bank. What will actually come is invoice-based financing. What will basically come is cash flow-based financing. When we talk of invoice-based financing, or when we talk of a cash flow-based financing, if we can add a marketplace to that, a marketplace where all the invoices can be posted, a marketplace where invoices are present and the financiers are present, and then fintech service providers are present in terms of risk assessment, in terms of scoring, in terms of giving compact reports about past repayment behavior or past execution capabilities of these MSMEs. I think the possibility is endless. An MSME sitting anywhere can raise finance from an NBFC or a bank or a financial institution based on the service, based on the strength of these invoices, which certified invoices which have been posted. And when I say certified invoices, the backbone for that has already been built in terms of GST portal. So any invoice that you raise has to be put on the GST portal, and if these invoices can flow onto these platforms, the possibilities are endless. And please also understand that the cost of financing will come down, because that bilateral deal is no longer there, that asymmetry of information has been solved, and we are in a situation where all the market participants have much better information about everyone. So that's one more revolution which is coming. I think the third revolution is also in the form of opportunities that are opening up because of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, whether in terms of the defense or aerospace sector, or whether in terms of small tenders being reserved for the Indian companies, or in terms of startups and the new companies being given reservation or preference in tenders floated by public sector units or tenders floated by the government. So these are the the ecosystem, the new ecosystem as we call it, or is slowly building up the building blocks in terms of threats, in terms of the marketplace, in terms of GST portal being there. They are all there. And I suppose the trend would move from bilateral financing to a marketplace-based financing. I think I will be doing a disservice if I don't cover the issue of large number of micro enterprises. We all know that out of 6.3 or 6.4 crore MSMEs, 97% are micro enterprises. And almost 97% of these MSMEs having a turnover of up to 1 crore don't have any bank finance. They are completely self-funded. This is an opportunity which is waiting to be tapped. And if we want to tap this opportunity through the usual branch-led model or through branch banking model, it is not possible for us because cost is going to be high. And the fintech revolution, India has been at the forefront of IT revolution, and now IT revolution for our benefit has changed into a fintech revolution where you have fintechs for everything. They will aggregate information. They will come up with small packages, which then can be used by the banks, can be used by NBFCs, can be used by MSMEs to raise finance for themselves. So that's one more area which I want to flag, and one more area where I would want that all of us pay attention and try to build capabilities in that area to deliver finance to MSMEs better. So that's it from my side today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Question.
Microfinancing, other thing you have touched very nicely. My sir point was, because this is a 4-time restructure has been allowed by the RBI. When you're talking about the January 2009, we are talking about the February, and we are talking about the August 20. And thereafter, recently by the May 21, we have also allowed restructuring. Up to December, this restructuring window has been closed. Now, point is, so as per the information available, it was about 10 or 11% of the restructured account. When we are talking about the restructure, about 55,000 crore rupees account has been restructured. So what do you feel that? Whether the government should come out some scheme again to have a restructuring, or how this can be avoided, because otherwise the NPO of the SME sector will go in a high way. What are your suggestions, sir, in that? Because you are the head of the SME.
So my view is that the MSME sector is quite resilient. I think their resilience has been shown in times of COVID also. And what has also happened is that the entire industry has used COVID to cut down their cost, to cut down their flab, to improve their processes, to invest in automation. And that we are seeing that in terms that the margins of the listed firms are improving. And so many opportunities of restructuring have been given to MSMEs, and those who were in great difficulty have taken it. And apart from that, I suppose a lot of additional credit has also been pumped in the system. And that is somewhere rotating in the system in the form of receivables, in the form of payables. So I suppose after this, if this wave, the third wave as we are seeing, it's not very severe like second wave. I think after this it would be business as usual than sort of a crisis situation. And that's evident in the figures of the credit growth also, and that's also evident in the figures of the delinquency levels are still under manageable levels.
Very nicely, sir. Very nicely you covered it. Another point, what I feeling you are talking about the cash flow funding. Now the concept is undergoing a change. Instead of the asset-based funding, it is a cash flow funding. So what do you feel that, sir? This assets-based funding should continue, or we should have only cash flow funding?
So there will not be enough assets in the country to mortgage for bankers and institutions or NBFCs to give loans to.
Sure.
Assets can be created if you are in business for a long time or some time. Assets cannot be created overnight. So the smaller the funding, the funding which is needed to impel entrepreneurship in the economy, that will have to be on or as we call a startup funding, that will have to be on cash flow based funding than asset based funding. So I suppose the time of cash flow based funding has come, and it's not that cash flow based funding is risky and asset based funding is safer, because we all know that there are a lot of issues in disposal of assets which the banks have to take over, or when the accounts go bad. So asset-based funding is not that simple or not that safe and secure. Cash flow funding, if it is implemented properly with proper flow of information and utilization of risk management technique, in my view, is going to be a much better model than anything else. And not only in developed countries, but in developing countries, especially in Far East, Thailand, Cambodia, and all that. In cash flow based funding is the model of funding than asset based funding. It's only in our country that the direction of banking developed towards asset backed funding. But if we have to dive deeper in the MSME space, then cash flow funding is the option. Is the only option.
Thank you very much, sir. I will come back to you for some question of the factoring or something, somebody asking for that. Lekin now I'm coming to our respective ED Punjab and Sindh Bank. Sir has resumed as Executive Director of Punjab and Sindh Bank on 10th March 21. He has a wide experience of more than 3 decades in the banking industry. Prior to joining as the Executive Director of Punjab and Sindh Bank, he was holding the position of General Manager and CFO of Bank of India. He has worked in all formats of the banking like branch banking, corporate banking, subsidy management, etc. He has the experience of international banking, having worked in Hong Kong branch of Bank of India. He has also position of the chairman of the Grameen Bank and leading RRB sponsored by Bank of India. He is a postgraduate of Commerce and Law graduate from the University of Mysore. He holds the post-graduation degree of Management of Business Finance. He is also a certified associate of Indian Institute of Bankers. Sir, we welcome you for this webinar. So just we want to from you, sir, whether do you think that SME sector has sportive landscape for the growth and global penetration, sir? So what do you feel, sir? Because as we find out from the figures, as you talk about the GDP growth, you talk about the export, or you talk the employment. What are you thinking, sir, for SME sector, sir?
Very good evening, Gupta ji. I thank Resurgent India and also Association of Financial Advisors of India for giving me an opportunity to participate in this webinar. As my previous speakers highlighted, the role of MSME in the Indian economy, their contribution cannot be overemphasized. As you know that the contribution to the Indian economy is around 30%, approximately 30%, and total number of MSMEs in India is around 6.3 crore and provide employment to more than 11 crore people. So this itself highlights the importance of MSME. And of late, the government of India, many of the schemes are centered around MSME and a lot of impetus is being given. Then it takes us to the question whether the MSMEs are having a right ecosystem and whether they are getting the adequate and finance at the right time and at the right price. And what is required to be done to improve the entire ecosystem. So you know that MSMEs has three critical, as per me, three critical barriers initially to make them more sustainable. One is of course, the market access, and the second one is overall productivity. And the third one, which is very important, is getting access to more finance. You know that during the last decade, several new instruments have been introduced, and MSMEs are now they have better access than the earlier days. But if you ask me whether it is adequate and whether the pricing is right, I will say still it is not mature to that level. Let us be honest. When I speak this, I can, because I have the view both from the financier as a lender and also from the perspective of the MSME borrowers. So at the same time, Mr. Gupta ji, when you said that the level of stress in the MSME sector is quite high. You are very pertinent to mention this. So I also feel that the level of stress rate and NP levels in MSME is one of the highest. So this will lead to several scenario where bankers always feel that their assessment has gone somewhere wrong, and the MSME borrowers may feel that the right adequate finance and easy access is that is what we call a easy way of doing business is not happening. So here where our Association of Financial Advisors come into picture. So therefore, their role is that to guide the MSMEs properly as to access it should the finance in such a way that it should be a good mixture of both equity and debt, and also at a right price. So you remember, if you remember MSMEs, there was a separate avenue for them to take equity from the market. So both BSE and NSE started this long back. But if you see the numbers, if you see the data, there is not much has not happened in this. If you see the listing, very few listing has happened in this MSME equity segment. Therefore, what are the loopholes that is there in this method of financing that has to be plugged? And more avenues should be available to the MSME entrepreneurs for accessing the market. As some of my earlier speakers pointed out, worldwide, there are more easier way of accessing the funds, not necessarily on the based on the assets. Cash based on the cash flow method, financing is being done in many of the especially developed economies. So therefore, that one has to be introduced in India, and many more market-friendly product has to be introduced. So now market-friendly products have not come. So it has not taken much fraction. So therefore, I think the role of AFAI is very important at this juncture, and a lot of hand-holding is required. Let me bring also a contemporary issue. As I said in my talk in the beginning, that because the stress level at the MSME is increasing. So let us be honest, let us all discuss, all the stakeholders have to discuss as to how this stress level can be reduced, or how alternative mechanism for raising capital and raising funds can be introduced. This requires elaborate discussion, and because a lot of churning is happening, definitely there will be solutions. But this requires a lot of the minds have to sit together and discuss, and new instruments have to be brought in the market to give cheaper funds to the MSME, because there are a lot of ideas now. One good thing has happened in the recent time is that a lot of fintechs have come into the ecosystem. These fintechs have, that RBI has also allowed a lot of sandbags experiments. So these things have brought some light in the tunnel, but whether it is adequate, whether it is sufficient, if you ask me, I still say that a lot of things is required to be done. And then the role of the financial advisor is very important, as I said. That is, their role is involved in robust financial planning, which comprises of liquidity management, not only fundraising, liquidity management, cash flow management, long-term asset acquisition, then importantly funding, capital structure, and cost of funding. Here the role of the advisors are very important. And also, that internal accounting, many people are lacking the basic things, like MSMEs are lacking internal accounting systems, bookkeeping systems. So therefore, it is also required to be done. See, and these things have to come in the ecosystem. Then only the level of trust will improve. That is very much required for the entire system to work very smoothly. So not only that, the role of the financing advisor should extend to mobilize working capital and its judicious use also, because as bankers we have seen many times the short this one is utilized for long-term uses. Therefore, there is a mismatch and the MSME is in stress most of the times. So this should be, this is a very important thing, and always they will be having the shortage of working capital requirement. So that does not mean that the company's bottom line has to be compromised. Without compromising the bottom line, these critical inputs for which is very much required for the business can be given by the financial advisor. So as I said, we have been seeing what I will say that a transformation is happening, a big transformation in the economy. And in this transformation, a lot of new ideas, churning is happening, lot of new instruments, lot of new products are coming up. So therefore, I think we are in the exciting times. So it will benefit everybody. But as I said, the MSMEs as well as the advisors to the MSMEs are required to play a major role in this transformation. This is what my
Very nicely, sir. Very nicely. You covered everything. I think I have no question to ask you. You cover everything. You talk about the capital market. You talk about the fintech company. You talk about the stress assets. And you also talk about the role of the financial advisors. I think this is the most important aspect where you're talking about when we are talking about stress asset, that means financial appraisal part and the projection part. Other issues which you have taken, I think, in the right directions. What your advice to the all participants, to our members, are well taken, sir. Now I am coming to Sri H.P. Kumar. He is ex-CMD of National Small Industrial Corporation. Shri Kumar had a long career in finance, banking, and MSME sector, and is currently Director, External Affairs, Power to SME. He has been Chairman and Managing Director of the National Small Industrial Corporation, a public sector corporation of Government of India, for a period of 9 years, and has a rich experience in promotions and development of macro and small and medium throughout the country. Even I know that Mr. Kumar was responsible for heavy export to the SME sector. So he has introduced so many schemes for the small scale enterprises so that they can go to the foreign and give some marketing aspects. Mr. Kumar is a postgraduate in commerce and qualified CAIIBA. He is also a banker previously, of those short period. A fellow Institute of Cost and Management Accountant, and hold the directorate in employment creations through rural industrializations. Beside having been head of the finance and CEO of large public sector corporation, he also hold foreign assignment with Africans countries. He has been member of the National Small Business Advisory Council of South Asia. I think we have so many things. If I go on explaining his biodata, I think my time will be consumed. I am not going much for that. I'm sir telling you, sir, what are you feeling, sir, Kumar, sir? So I've seen the statement of Piyush Goyal, I think today. He is talking about the 5 mantra for startup. He was talking about the share. He was talking about the explore. He was talking about the nature. He was talking about the service. He was also talking about empowers. Beside that, he also mentioned that startup turned COVID-19 into an opportunity. and made 2021 the year of unicorns. So he feeling that India is third largest number of unicorns in the world. You are talking about 82 unicorns are there. And sir, what do you feel that, sir? Because you have helm of fear of the SME sector, you have introduced so many things for the development of SME sector. We want to know your views, sir. And what do you want to convey to our members of these associations with your vast experience of 9 years as a chairman of any corporation? I think there is a big tenure for that. So I hand over to Mr. Kumar. And what do you think that importance and proper financial planning of SME sector? How you planned it, sir? I know that you introduced some scheme and you also got the banker under your fold also. When you are recommending some proposal and banks are giving a sanction to these proposals also. I think you have so much innovations are done by you. Even supply of, when you are talking about the supply of raw material to SME sector, you have some scheme introduced for the SME sector also, sir. So I think I will not take much time for you. Please give your thoughts, sir. Kumar, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. In fact, meeting you and talking to you, my heartfelt thanks to you for your kind words about me and my background, and my greetings to all the distinguished panelists who are very seasoned and very senior bankers doing a lot of work for the MSME sector. Well, I would say that MSME sector contribution has already been explained. I will not go into any further details, but let me tell you that out of 63 million MSMEs, which has been mentioned earlier also by Mr. Iswar and Mr. Raghavendra, only 5 million units have the access to formal credit from the banks. So, and as per a study of the International Finance Corporation some time back, there is a huge gap in the need for credit, formal credit, and the availability, which has been existing as of now. As per their estimate, it is close to 32 trillion Indian rupees, almost 32 lakh rupees, 32 lakh crore. So there is a huge credit gap. I am not saying that this credit gap has emerged over the last couple of years or 5 years or 10 years. This has been persisting for a long time. I have been associated with the MSME sector since last nearly 40 years as a banker earlier, and then a MSME-centric corporation, which I was heading for close to 9 years, the National Small Industries Corporation. And we had the opportunity of, participating in the Prime Minister's task force some time back, reviewed the positions, what are the reasons as to why the lending is not commensurate to the needs of the MSME sector. While everybody acknowledges that MSMEs play a very, very vital role in the economy of the country, provide employment, largest employment next to agriculture, and have the potential in future also. Even the Startup India program, the Make in India program, all these have been started with an eye on MSMEs' capabilities and capacities. Mr. Gupta was talking about today's views expressed by Honorable Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal, and when he discusses about the Startup India program is nothing but a kind of a focus on the need for starting new business enterprises through the MSME sector. They all start as MSMEs, and just because they are innovations, they are recognized as the startups. But the problem is, even these startups are facing a lot of hurdles in getting the credit. So I am not blaming anybody. The only thing is I am trying to analyze as to what are the reasons why this credit gap has been existing for a long time. And in spite of the best efforts by all the stakeholders, by the Government of India, by the Reserve Bank of India, and our bankers' friends are doing a wonderful job, in fact, in spite of whatever constraints and limitations they have. Still, I would say that people are, at least able to meet them, get the comfort of getting whatever best they can get from these bankers. But bankers have to discharge their own obligations. They are dealing with public money, and they have to keep that safeguards in mind with regard to the liquidity and with regard to the repayment capacity of the borrower, the cost of recovery. All these things, there are responsibilities on the bankers. On the other hand, MSME sector, while being a blue-eyed of the government, is facing difficulties. So analyzing the reasons for this, I think 3 or 4 factors which I can mention. One is, of course, the informal sector. I think Mr. Raghavendra very rightly mentioned about the micro sector. You see, out of 63 million, nearly 50 million are informal. It's only 1 crore enterprises, 1 crore little plus, which have got registered under the GST. So they can be treated as formal enterprises. Rest, all of them are informal. The problem is informal enterprises do not maintain accounts. They don't pay taxes. They are not registered. So how do we assist them? How do the bankers come and assist them? And there is a huge gap available with regard to their needs of credit. I would say that informal sector is somehow able to meet through the informal sources, and of course microfinance institutions, non-banking finance companies. But then the cost of credit, availability of credit from those sources is much, much higher. And that is how the people complain that cost of credit is not commensurate with what they expect from the banks. When Reserve Bank of India announces 4% repo rate, and it comes in all the televisions, 4% repo rate. And then when they are getting interest rate of 15 to 18% from NBFCs and microfinance institutions. So naturally they are bound to complain and mention that there is a huge mismatch. But they don't understand, and the one bigger reason is that the financial discipline and the way the expectations of the bankers have to be met. Expectations with regard to the documentation, presentation of the credit worthiness of the applicant borrowers. I am not saying that people can get access without even proving their credit worthiness, without proving their merit of the need of the credit, the project viability, the project feasibility of technical feasibility. All these things have to be proven and presented to the banks. Then only the lender will be able to appreciate. Otherwise, the lender is, depending solely on the basis of security. So when we say that people need collateral securities, banks are asking only for collateral securities and not doing any lending without the collateral securities. That is the reason, because MSMEs, particularly the smaller ones, micro ones, are not able to prove their merits with regard to, credit worthiness. So these factors which we have examined, and a lot of directions and things have been issued. One more factor which I would say is very heavy on the bankers with regard to their decision for lending to MSME sector is the NPA provisions. I still fail to understand when the receivables realization of MSMEs takes 6 months, right from purchase of raw materials till the realization of payments. Even government organizations and government departments are delaying payments beyond 45 days, which is the requirement as per the MSME Development Act. So if they are taking 3 months for releasing payments, whether they are big corporates or government organizations, and 3 months it takes for a working cycle from raw material till the conversion to finished goods and making sales. Normal working capital cycle, then it comes to 6 months. And the RBI says that 90 days is the NPA norms, and within 90 days also there are SMA 0, 1, 2, 3. I mean, this creates a lot of pressure on the bankers, because ultimately they have to look at their balance sheet also, the profitability also. So we have been recommending, in fact, for the last many years through the government, that these NPA norms need to be reviewed. I really would wish that the bankers also, in fact, and it benefits both sides. It benefits the MSME sector, and it benefits the banks also. Ultimately, I have been chairman of a corporation which has been a non-banking finance company registered, and we have been into lending to the MSMEs. I have seen, this is my experience as a banker also. Initially, I was with Union Bank of India, and as chairman of a large NBFC, that is NSIC, lending country-wise to the MSME sector, that although the realization of dues gets delayed, but we have been able to recover almost all the debt. There was no need for writing off. It was getting delayed. It was getting delayed beyond 3 months, beyond 6 months. Sometimes, interest realization would come later. But there was no need for writing off. Writing off would come, at a very, very late stage when we were not able to realize the payments for a longer time. So one suggestion that I had, in fact, through the ministry and to the Reserve Bank of India also, I've been talking to them, that these NPA norms need to be reviewed, relooked at. It will benefit the entire economy and the entire MSME sector, and will release the pressure from the banks also. A lot of accounts have been written off just because of this, and a lot of other accounts have been taken to NCLT. They could have been, instead of, we are focusing on the closure of the industry by taking them to NCLT because of the non-realization of timely dues and becoming them NPS. Whereas we are not able to start new enterprises, MSMEs, which should be the focus of the government. So these are some of the issues. I would say that the question of financial discipline, which has been discussed, of course, goes without saying. There should not be any diversion of funds. There should be matching of the assets and liabilities, as mentioned by earlier speakers also. Mr. Raghavendra particularly mentioned as a practical banker. No diversion, no mismatching of the assets and liabilities, long-term loans diverted to other areas, and working capital finance diverted for plant and machinery. The financial discipline, financial projections, particularly the cash flow management, has to be taken care of so that you are able to meet the liabilities well in time to the, not only to the bankers, but also to your suppliers and creditors and other, so that there is no mismatch with regard to the cash flow. This financial discipline, of course, is a must without any reason. But I would say that some of the policy initiatives, restructuring, of course, Mr. Gupta mentioned, I will take a couple of lines more. Restructuring is very important. Once the restructuring has ended on 31st December, I think not even half of the total stressed debt has been restructured. Today only I made a recommendation to the government and wrote a letter that we should be extending this restructuring facility, restructuring window for another 1 year, because of COVID has not ended, and the stress is still being felt. Even more and more units are coming under the stress. So restructuring allows, in fact, the MSMEs to get some more time, and then bankers also get SIF relief, so that arrangement works out. So that is another view that should be important and can be given. I would say that the role of financial advisors, the Association of Financial Advisors, is doing a wonderful job. Mr. Gupta is, I think, bringing it to the forefront. In fact, the role as well as the ecosystem of the MSMEs and the problems and constraints with the solutions is doing a great service to the MSMEs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kumar Saab. I think you have touched a very important issue of the NPA level of 90 days. I think you are advocating from the beginning that the period should be extended and the proper planning should be there. I think this is your feedback to the system. And you also telling that it should be some extension of the restructuring, at least for 1 year, should be there. Sir, Kumar sir, you are also helm affair of the SME sector. What do you feel that informal? I feel that most of the SME sector are availing the informal credit. They are not going to the bank. What can be reason for that, sir? What can be? Because every even webinar, because we hold more than 100 webinars in respect of this SME sector also, always talking about the inadequate credit facility being extended to the bank by the end. Another issue, what is the collateral security? What we were talking about. So what do you feel that, sir? Why informal lending is much higher than the formal lending from the banking sector? What are you feeling, sir?
Actually, I would say that one main reason, besides other reasons, of course, that they are not registered, they don't pay taxes, they don't prepare the accounts. One more reason is that lack of knowledge. they even don't know. In fact, I've been meeting a lot of people. They don't know that what are the schemes available, how do we avail the credit from the bank, how do we approach that. They always remain apprehensive कि बैंक जाएंगे तो नहीं कुछ हमारा तो नहीं होने वाला. So lack of knowledge, lack of training, lack of hand holding, I would say, are other factors which are responsible for inadequate formal credit to this sector, informal sector, and they find comfort in local institution which is helping them through cash flow credit or merchant credit, and they find some short-term loan, although they have to pay huge interest rate, 24%, 28%, and but still they find that the hassles are less. They don't have to complete a lot of documentation and securities, and so I think a structured program, I don't know whether the Association of Financial Advisors can undertake that. I would be ready to help, in fact, through my association with the chambers, PhD chamber and FICCI both. So we can hold some joint programs for the informal sector and invite a lot of people just to give them comfort that dealing with banks under Mudra is such a scheme where people can take advantage. And no bank no bank refuses that kind of a loan, whether it is Mudra or Stand Up India and these small loans under the Credit Guarantee Fund Trust of the Micro and Small Enterprises Ministry of MSME and SIDBI, of course. So
I agree. Financial advisory service can be helpful for this informal section. What you touch the point. Kumar Saab, I 100% agree. Kumar Saab, another one issue. Yes. This SME sector has to claim incentive under production link incentive scheme of Government of India. Whether you feel that by providing this incentive scheme, performance can be judged by the banker or some institution also for that?
Yes, sure. Actually, a performance linked incentive scheme is a very good scheme. It will surely bring the financial competitiveness and strength among the beneficiaries. And bankers would be very comfortable, in fact, dealing with those units which have got the benefit, which are getting the benefit of this PLI, because PLI further, jacks up their profitability and bottom lines as additional incentive from the government. But my only concern is that there will be very few numbers, in fact, who would be eligible for this PLI. The government has fixed particular numbers under various sectors, and the number is very small depending upon the availability of budget. But I'm sure the government is going to consider, in fact, revisions in the time to come. But your question, Gupta ji, that those units which are getting PLI benefit or which are going to be the beneficiaries would be the excellent customers for the banks, and banks can safely rely on having any kind of association for lending with them.
Thank you very much, sir. I am coming to D. Bhattacharya, sir, who is the head MSME Banking, Bank of Baroda. Mr. Bhattacharya has worked through various positions in the last 27 years of his career, ranging from the branch manager to business head, handles sales, credit, collection, HR, administration role in various capacity as a senior level. At Bank of Baroda earlier, he was involved with an advisory role on new initiatives in farm equipment, commercial vehicles, construction equipment, finance. Additionally, handling the entire co-organizations program for the banking prior to Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, he was in Toyota Finance as CEO. Presently, he is the head MSME Banking at Bank of Baroda. He is the helm of hero of co-lending. I think co-lending to SME sector is playing very, very important role, for which Bank of Baroda is a pioneer in the field of co-lending to SME sector. SME sector is also benefited where the bank cannot go. This NBFC can go. And he having a partnership with the NBFCs. I think he's the right person to speak about the co-lending And how, sir, a Bank of Baroda had done such a beautiful job, wonderful job to enhance the credit to SME sector through lending under the NBFC model. I request Shri Bhattacharya, sir, to please give your views, sir.
Thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you. And very warm evening to all the eminent speakers and the audience. So I think I am the last speaker for the day. And therefore, it's a very interesting topic which you have brought in, Gupta ji. Thank you for inviting me. Co-lending in its previous avatar used to be co-origination when it was rolled out by RBI. But I think after the fallout, after the IL&FS fiasco, when the NBFCs all became cash strapped and there was a liquidity crisis within the NBFCs, RBI came out with a window of co-origination. So this was earlier called co-origination, and now it has been rechristened to co-lending. So at Bank of Baroda, I remember in 2019 is when we first formulated the policy of co-origination, and we were the first public sector bank to kind of strike a partnership with a couple of NBFCs. However, this did not gain enough steam. While the philosophy behind the co-lending or a co-origination, whichever name you call, is brilliant, but I think the first policy of the co-origination was brought out or rolled out in a jiffy by RBI. So while the concept was very well adapted by all the bankers and the NBFCs, I remember when I was handling, there was a slew of NBFCs who came up, in line saying that we want to partner with you. Unfortunately, hit certain roadblocks. There are operational challenges in the co-lending or a co-origination model. And therefore, in again 2020, RBI rechristened and brought, eased out certain norms and brought out one option, which is very akin to what we do in a direct assignment. So there is one option, which is, of course, you do the fundamental theory is that you develop a common lending program. The common lending program is agreed between the two lenders. The NBFC becomes the front end, and the bank funds say up to 80%, and 20% is contributed by the NBFC. That's a minimum contribution. It can, of course, go 50-50 also, depending on the alliance. Now, typically, while everything is fine, you understand very well in the accounting policies of banks and the NBFCs are pretty different. The IRAC norms they vary. So therefore, the operational challenges were not with the disbursement part, but the second leg, which is the collections part. So what happens when a collection comes into an escrow? You really do not know how to apportion which amount has to be apportioned. So there is a rule engine in every system. Which first, like for instance, in a public sector bank, it is the charges which get apportioned first, and so it is CIP which happens, charges, interest, principal. Whereas in an NBFC, they first apportion the principal. Now, if a money comes, if it is a regular account, there is no issue. But if there is a default and there is an overdue amount which is collected, a part payment is collected, how do you apportion the money? There are a lot of operational challenges, and those operational challenges still continue. Thankfully, we being pioneers in the co-origination and subsequently the co-lending, we have now developed a platform, a fintech platform within the bank. It's an indigenous one, which will allow to onboard as many NBFCs of varied product lines, and the system actually, it has to be, there are some API integration which needs to be done with the NBFCs. It takes care of the entire apportionment, which we have, the operational challenges I was talking of. We are currently, we have tied up with 3-4 partners, 3-4 NBFCs are running well, but the platform is on a UAT. So I think by the turn of February, we should go all live and we can onboard as many as 15, 20, 30 NBFCs, depending on how many of them are interested. But the moot question is, the whole philosophy behind, the purpose behind the co-lending was that there was a liquidity issue. So there were two purposes. One, the private banks were actually poaching the NBFC's customers, right? Because they had a finer pricing advantage. And they were also poaching the public sector banks because public sector banks essentially do not have a sales organization. So there is a dichotomy. On one hand, and you must have recently read the tie between SBI and Adani Capital. There were a lot of questions being raised. Why SBI, which has the largest network, of 27,000 branches would tie up with a company which has 60 branches, right? It is not about the brick and mortar branch. When we say the outreach, essentially to reach out the customer, the NBFCs typically they have a feet on street. When you say a feet on street, essentially means they have a sales organization. So in any bank or any setup financial institution, if you have a sales organization, they have their reachability or contactability and the customer point is any day high. So the point of sale today is not the bank. The point of sale is the customer's place. So who reaches there? Despite having a nearest branch, a branch never goes out. The branch manager or the branch executive never goes out because he's saddled with a host of problems. And the eminent speakers in the past did say that the role of banker, how critical it is. And since you're dealing with public money, so you try and be very defensive first and then get very aggressive. So that's a stand which normally a public sector bank takes. So therefore, the advantage of an NBFC is that their reachability, their point of contact with the customer is any day superior. And that's the reason why a giant like SBI has tied up with a 60 branch network, Adani Capital. So there is a dichotomy, but that's a fact of life. So we have understood that, and at Bank of Baroda, we are very clear that there are a lot of product and programs which a typical banker does not run, because in our parlance, in any public sector bank parlance, you find we do the typical traditional MSME products. Now there are a lot of finer products. Like I will give an example of, say, commercial vehicle, a construction equipment. They have got fantastic portfolio with, say, financials like Sundaram, Cholamandalam. Okay, now they do fantastic, but when you go to there is a contractor who takes a working capital limit from you, but he doesn't take a equipment from you. Why? Because the equipment demands a speedy TAT. Now, which a Bank of Baroda or any public sector bank is not able to deliver. Hence, therefore, I must say that it is very critical that each public sector bank, they should leverage the advantage of a NBFC who are specialists or who have got the domain expertise in that particular product program and align with them. So we at Bank of Baroda, we are not aligning for a single product program with 10 NBFCs. No, we will take 10 NBFCs in different product lines, which are not very, very traditional ones. So that gives us a horizon, a wider horizon to reach out to customers who are new to the bank, as well as you have the ability to cross-sell them. So that's the thought behind the co-lending. And plus the customer also gets benefited because he gets a blended rate, which is obviously lower than what the NBFC offers. So I think it's a brilliant thought and philosophy, but it has to gain steam. It has to gain better traction at the operational level. There are operational challenges, which when I speak to my colleagues in the other banks, they are facing similar challenges.
The major issue, what I feel, is a partnership with the NBFC or fintech company for lending. How you feel that, whether it is a successful model? Because previously origination or something like that, it was not so successful.
But I think we are very clear. I'm not sure about what the other banks think, but 3 years back when we formulated the gate criteria for the NBFCs, we were very clear that we need a vintage player. We need somebody who has weathered all seasons, somebody who has tied over the crisis in the past. We will not go by the startups to begin with. If at all we want a startup who would like to partner with us, we'll go into the strategic alliance, which will be backed by FLDG. We will not get into a co-lending. For co-lending, we need a 5-year-old partner, which is A-rated or a BBB rated. And we have developed a gate criteria, which allows us, to kind of have a fair play.
Yeah, here I would like to substantiate what Mr. Bhattacharya told is that actually this co-lending model, what I believe from the commercial banker perspective, I feel this will be a game changer. See, bankers have to leverage the advantages, can leverage the advantages of NBFC and as well as the banking technology, because see, you have the bankers, most of the bankers are sitting on liquidity. Funds are never an issue for the bankers, whereas cost of funds is also cheaper when it is compared to the NBFCs. But as Mr. Bhattacharya said, that we don't have that wherewithal, we don't have that smartness. Feet on the street, we don't have those soldiers. So that is available with the NBFCs. I think this, by combining these two, it will be a win-win situation both for the NBFCs and for the. Of course, there is a slight delay in picking up the stream, but I think over a period it will pick up and it will be a very successful product, because whatever the lacuna was there in the earlier products like pool lending, pool buyout, all those things, no, those have been plugged in this. This will be a great product.
Very nice, very nicely, sir. Sir, one or two questions we will take is Madhusudhan is asking, every government bank saying credit guarantee for the SME sector. And you as a finance minister, without collateral, you cannot give any financial support, being the essential service like waste management. He is managing the waste management, sir. I think this is also important, the sector where the waste management is there and they are producing some electricity or something like that. So what is any panelist or sir, ED sir, whether you can say something for that? Because waste management for giving a credit, where it is also covered under the credit guarantee scheme. I think there should not be any problem. What do you feel? Sir?
What you said is correct. Actually, there is no inhibition for
Sir.
financing. In
Yeah.
fact, a few of the waste management companies at a higher level, at the corporate level, for example, like in Indore Municipal Corporation had given a contract to a certain big contractor for waste management.
Sir, sir.
So we had finance, just to give an example, and it was a successful thing. And similarly, because it's not a traditional way of finance, a traditional product may not be popular with the bankers, but I feel that if the project itself is viable, then funding should be done. There should not be any inhibition amongst the bankers.
I think Madhusudan must have got the right answer from a respective ED, sir. And people are appreciating all the panelists, even Sri Kumar, sir. What your view mentioned by you, sir, and everybody appreciating that what Mr. some Dr. Tripathi is there who is telling that Kumar sir plays key point very brilliantly. It is imperative to revisit the policy stipulated by NPA. I think this is the most important aspect, sir, which you have taken, sir, Kumar sir.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
what about another issue, what one is taking about the uh, can one does factoring without intimation and consent of the customer? I think that is not possible because factoring they will have to be consent with the customer. You cannot do like that. Anything are there. Another issue what is raising is what was the equity finance ratio in last 2 years in the time of Corona, especially real estate related. I think we cannot say anything for the equity finance because actually margin is required. For equity also bank is giving some loan against that also by 15% fund to fund are they being provided. I think these are the most aspects which we have taken. I think there is no other question which we can answer or we can reply to that. So, sir, I have no word to express my gratitude because it is already over time for 8 minutes. We exceeded the limit. We have taken a sufficient time. So, I have no, sir, word to express our gratitude from the Association of the Financial Advisory. We are association where we are thinking that how we can help the SME sector. And this was our first webinar under this series, and we are going to hold mostly every week one webinar. And these associations of Financial Advisory of India are promoted by the prominent financial expert and industry leaders of India who have joined hands together to establish a platform to bring together the financial professionals. Either we talk about the CA, CS, CMA, valuer, rating professionals, savvy consultant, recovery and reconstruction professional, etc., etc. Those are practicing in India and Indian original, placed globally covering the entire financial spectrum. Value chain to leverage their collective leadership and knowledge to rebuild the funding structures of India. I think this is our initial stage. And this advisory association, I feel that it is a non-profit organizations, and we feel that it will be helpful to have a good accounts for the banking sector. So the NPA level, other monitoring aspects, we can look into the things are there. So as it is recognized by, you can say that we are talking about the international, what we are talking about, their proper recognition is there. When you are having a syndication of loan, either we are talking about the book runners, we are talking about the mandated lead arrangers, when we are talking about MLA, I think these are the concept which the international banking are prevailing, and we are talking about the lead manager, lead arranger, and participants. I think this concept might be coming into India also sometime. So, sir, I have no word to express gratitude from the side of the association to our respective panelists. Our ED, sir, I think he has given a very viewpoint and very free and frank opinions about all the aspect of capital market, NPA level, other things are there. We are thankful to you, sir. We are thankful to Mr. Ishwar, who given all agenda points, proper presentation, each and every aspect he touched. I'm thankful to you, Mr. Ishwar. I'm thankful to Sri H.P. Kumar. So I think his view was very well taken for the NPA level. So I'm thankful to him also. I'm thankful to Sri Vivek Malhotra ji, who CGM said be, and he is also very, very clear in his thoughts and given the very viewpoint of the restructuring, how it can be helpful to the SME sectors. We are thankful to D. Bhattacharya sir, who is the Bank of Baroda, head of MSME, and his core lending aspects. He done an excellent job for the banks and NBFC. I think with his efforts, the NBFCs and providing the credit facility to the SME sector will be increased, and all the unbanked area, SME sector or unorganized sector, will be benefited. So lastly, I have no word to express my gratitude from the association side to all the panelists. And we are thankful from the Resurgent side also, Resurgent India, who is the leading, and we are leading, you can say, SEBI registered, and we are providing all type of financial services to the SME sector and other sector also. With this word, I have closed this session. Thankful to all the panelists, although I overstretched for 13 or 14 minutes. Again, I'm thankful to you. I think it is going to be proved to be a very useful session for all the entrepreneurs who attended, to the member of the associations, and to other participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Everyone.